So we are reading the Promise of the Future from Book 11. And there is a difference between prophecy and a promise. Because very often I hear people say words like, Sri Aurobindo has prophesied. Sri Aurobindo has not prophesied, he has promised, and there is a difference. Prophecy is something we do from here. We see an event that is unfolding depending upon how much our vision can reach. Depending on what plane we stand, depending on whether our subtle vision has opened or not. So we see that and we prophesy. So it's from this end. Promise is when the one in whose responsibility the event has to happen, the originator of the show, he says something. Because, and I'll take a little example. So sometimes we see that an event will be telecast, and it's a prophecy in a way. It has not been telecast, but at some level there is a decision, and so people who are involved, the whole crew, the camera team, they take it that yes, the event will be telecast. So everybody is ready, but the director of the show knows the final decision. He can cancel it or he may have it. So something like this happens here upon earth. So prophecies are always like Nostradamus and Edgar Cayce and many others, Bhavishya Puran. You have prophecies. But promise is something which only the divine can do. Like we see Krishna telling Arjuna, that's a promise. That doesn't matter. You abandon all things, take refuge in me alone, I will deliver you from all sin and evil. Do not fear, do not grieve. So that's a promise. So here what we are seeing is promise. That's why the mother said, what Sri Aurobindo brings is not a hope, but the assurance of a luminous future. She has used words like assurance. Then she has used words like promise, because he is the one who is taking a decision, but here as the avatar, it is he who has to prepare the ground. So that's what we see here. And there are a number of beautiful things about this promise that has been made. One thing which is very, very clear, if we read through this entire book or canto, depending on what we say, it's a book and there is only one canto, that nothing depends on man. This is something very amazing. Nowhere Sri Aurobindo is saying, nowhere the Godhead of the Vision Wonderful is saying, if man does it, therefore this will happen. There are no ifs, buts, therefore. In fact, what he says is something even more powerful, which we'll see. So, nothing has been left to man. That's what the mother says in one of her messages, that you must know that you are living in an exceptional hour, where men are no more left on their own resources. There are periods when human beings push, pull, and, based on their egoism, world advances, divine pushing from behind. But that's not the moment. So does man have a role? The answer is yes and no. No in its eventuality. Whether he refuses, he accepts, it is going to be. Yes in its temporality. We can hasten or we can delay. That's all that is given to us. And most important, we can have the joy of participating in this great adventure. That's what we see here. And as always, at first, all these things happen in a few, and then more and more. It's like a ripple effect. The point where, like a little nucleus, where things begin to change, and then it ripples and ripples. So it is inevitable. Any process, it will be like that. To imagine that suddenly everybody will wake up in the morning and say, wow, my hairs have turned golden. Am I supramentalized? More likely than not that, you're just getting old and your vision is jaundiced, so white hairs are seen through a golden eye. But it will be with a few in the beginning. That's what Sri Aurobindo reveals to us. Page 705. Some shall be made the glory's receptacle. Some. And vehicles of the eternal's luminous power. It is something very interesting. Sri Aurobindo has used two words, receptacles and vehicles. You see, these words are very encouraging in a certain way. What are vessels? Receptacles are vessels which receive and contain. So there will be some who will receive and contain. What are vehicles? Vehicles are those that carry it far and wide. So there are two kinds of actions that will take place in the supramental manifestation. Some who will be like static recipients, they will receive. There are people who are required to hold the force, like transformers, they have to hold the energy. Like the dam, like recently we are hearing in Madhya Pradesh, there is a flood, so they have opened some of the dams. So there are those who they are required, because without them, how will it act? So before the supramental manifestation, we see that Sri Aurobindo and the mother were at once doing both the actions. Rather, Sri Aurobindo would become the receptacle and the mother would be the vehicle. So it's something like that, the static and the dynamic aspect. And there have to be others who carry this far and wide, because the whole earth has to come under the supramental law. So both these kinds of humanities will blossom. These are the high forerunners, the heads of time, the great deliverers of earthbound mind, the high transfigurers of human clay, the firstborn of a new supernal race. So this is about the new race. When mother was asked that when will it come, she said, wait for 1,000 years. Then she said, Sri Aurobindo said 300 years. It's there in one of his letters. She says, but it's actually, we think, 300 is... But if we look at not millenniums, we have left behind trillenniums. So it's just round the corner. So that's how they, promised us that it'll take some time. But who will be there? These people, those who will hold the glory and those who will become the vehicles of the eternal's luminous power. These are the high forerunners, the heads of time, the great deliverers of earthbound mind, the high transfigurers of human clay, the firstborn of a new supernal race. It is first through them that matter will be impacted, and the first experiments, if I may say so, on their nature, how it responds. This is what we see in the ashram context initially, that they were the ones who were receiving the force and sending that current into human beings, how it will respond. So some responded like this, like a flower, and gave themselves to her and asked no more. Others responded with million doubts in the head, suddenly came up. Still others had resistances of different kind. Some developed all kinds of things. You see, that when Nishikanto, the poet who came, the visionary poet, so Sri Aurobindo, so beautifully he tells him, he came from Shantiniketan. He said, if you live there, continue living there, you will become a world famous poet. You will be recognized by the world. But if you come here, your body won't be able to take the force. You will, within 2 years, you are likely to develop all kinds of illnesses. Why? Because the impact of the force. There have to be some people who have to take that impact. And he said, like the child he was, I have come in Sharan of Mahakali. Should I fear? Okay. And we know his habits, not to be recommended, always. He had become a repository of illnesses. When somebody would complain before him, I have, knee pain and this pain, he said, look how he is complaining. I have every system in my body which is having a creaking and cranking. And with high diabetes, he would eat rasgullas in the in the lake, and write poetries. And somebody complained to mother. Mother called him, I believe you eat rasgullas in the lake. Handi rasgulla, not 1 or 2. Huh? And Nishikanto says, mother, should a Mahakali's child be afraid? Okay. She responded to the state of consciousness. Now, of course, this is not a verdict for eating rasgullas and walking the supramental way. Certainly not. But there are some who are, this is there in the Bible. Many are called. Some are chosen. So these are the chosen lot who were, for a specific purpose, the divine was doing sending the force, and they were responding, reacting in their own unique ways. And they are the forerunners because they have accepted to bear that burden. The incarnate dual power shall open God's door. Eternal supermind touch earthly time. So that's why we know that this double incarnation was required, because one who could become the stabilizing power in earth, who could keep that entire supramental force. We see Sri Aurobindo is constantly holding it. Otherwise it will just vanish. There has to be some point on earth which can hold it. And the mother who is sending it far and wide into human beings, into different aspects of creation, into gods, the titans, the flower, the vegetable, because the entire creation is interconnected. So when Sri Aurobindo physically, what we understand in our ignorance has withdrawn, then she had to play both the roles. He speaks about it. She had to play both the roles. And he started working at the two ends. On one side in the inconscient, because that's where the problem was. So how to stabilize that force? So we see that when he plunged, the supermind descended and stayed in the earth substance for 111 hours. And Sri Aurobindo spoke about this, that this is required. This is the supramental descent. What happened on 29th February is manifestation. It took roots in earth. And then it starts manifesting on 29th February when the door opens. This Superman shall wake in mortal man. So there are beautiful suggestions here. Superman is concealed in man as an aspiration. It's something very interesting and beautiful. How is concealed in man? We see countless stories. Man has always aspired for something greater than man. But he has taken two roads towards it, which Sri Aurobindo speaks of. Even in Savitri he says, haste not on the road through the Titan's path. So what is the Titan's path? He goes through a storm, he climbs the stairs. By force he is trying to wrest the powers and climb to supermanhood. This is the Titanic Superman. So we see Ravana is the Titan kind of Superman. He has powers which earthly human beings can't imagine. He has captured all the Navagrahas which control destiny. So he is the master of his destiny as far as the earthly consciousness is concerned. His son Meghnad, he has conquered Indra, Indrajit. So this is one line of supermanhood. But that's not the road that man must take. There is another line which is the godlike evolution. Gods grow in light, in harmony. They can be strong. That's what Sri Aurobindo writes. There is a very beautiful essay, those who are interested in reading, The Superman, where Sri Aurobindo speaks of these two roads that human beings have taken in the ascent towards supermanhood. And they have collapsed because Titanic way, after a point, the Titan's weight increases and he collapses under the weight. The ladder is not rooted firmly. So he climbs through a skyscraper and then it collapses because the foundation is not deep. Whereas the godlike Superman climbs on wings of love, wisdom and strength, the triumvirate. That's how Sri Aurobindo puts it. So here we have this Superman waking up in mortal man. So people will begin to aspire for things which appear seemingly impossible. But that's what human beings were always meant to be. And manifest the hidden demigod. This demigod is where Mother says that man is a god who has forgotten himself as a god. So why was he made to forget? Because he grew very proud. So he had to learn the lesson of humility. If one ascends towards Godhead without humility, it is very dangerous. So he had to be beaten, black and blue, to gain strength and wisdom, so that when he climbs eventually, that's why civilizations have collapsed. You see, if you see the Mahabharata time, they look like Superman. They just do a mantra and you have this astra, that astra. It's not human. Extraordinary. Bhishma lying on a bed of arrows. They are not, these are not ordinary feats. And yet it had to collapse. We see Atlantis collapsed. We see many of these beings in the Mayan civilization collapsed. They left some traces, that's all. And why they collapsed? Because something is yet not ready. So this is what is the final work that they have come to do. So there is the demigod. the God-like possibility. Demigod is human being becoming a god. That is a demigod. So, as mother told Champak Lal ji once, Champak Lal, you have become a demigod. So, demigod is referring to Narada also. Sri Aurobindo says demigod. Why Narada had human births? And then he ascends to a god-like status. So, the demigod which is hidden within us will begin to manifest. Or grow into the God light and God force, revealing the secret deity in the cave. It is not said man will do this yoga, that yoga, and he will find the deity. The deity will be revealed by the pressure of the God light and God force. Somebody asked the mother, not that the supermind is there, will things become, will it be easier to realize? He said, exactly. I mean, that is the whole purpose. It is going to make it much easier to discover the psychic being, to open the doors to the higher consciousness. But of course, if we hesitate on the shore with doubt, it's a different story altogether. Then shall the earth be touched by the Supreme. His bright, unveiled transcendence shall illumine the mind and heart and force the life and act. Now we see what will be the markers of the Superman. Because at one time, mother says, now there are so many Superman, Kalki, and Christ and Krishna. So many have come all around. Because they know this is the plan. This is a good time to rise the wave. But what is the sign of the Superman? So that's what is being revealed. Will he be a magic doing person who will start, saying, okay, stand and we'll do a mass healing? Will he do miracles? No, that's not what is a Superman. He can do, but that's not the hallmark. So, the mind and heart and force the life and act. So, it is the transcendent and the supreme who act through the veils. They will begin to act directly on the mind and life and act to interpret his inexpressible mystery in a heavenly alphabet of divinity's signs. This comes several places in both Savitri and Sri Aurobindo's elsewhere, even in his poem. Interpret. The mind right now misinterprets because it's in ignorance. There are moments which are grace, and the mind says, God is so cruel. And there are actually moments when God seems to have said, okay, this fellow is, let's forget in the sense that let him enjoy life, I will see later. And one says, Bhagwan ki badi kripa hai ji. I am so fortunate, I am blessed with this, blessed with that. There is that story of Prapatti ji, and it's very interesting. Somebody asked him that, in my life, I have had everything very nice, smooth. It's another thing that you take everything beautifully. But everything nice, smooth, whatever money I needed, I had in plenty. Whatever this I had was in plenty. So he said that, see, Mother's grace is so much on me. And he suddenly said, with his straightforward manner, maybe Mother has forgotten you for some time. Grace doesn't act to make things easy. Grace acts to make us progress. Of course it supports. It provides us what we need. Yogshem Vahamyam. But it will not make us kaun banega karodpati mein, a winner. That, oh, my lottery came because God is very kind on me. Who knows? The problem will start now. So, people ask Sri Aurobindo, no, which share market should I apply on? And this thought, one of the American persons, he said, I believe you can prophesy, you can see into the future, we can have a partnership. I'll bet on the shares. You tell me which are the ones to apply on, and then I'll give you this much share. That also. Sri Aurobindo laughed and laughed. That's not how the divine operates. So, to interpret his inexpressible mystery, it will come as wisdom. It will manifest in speech. That's what we see. Again and again, the golden light came down into my brain. The grey rooms of my mind sun-touched became. A bright reply to wisdom's occult flame, a calm illumination and a flame. And then it comes speech. Thy golden light came down into my throat. And all my speech is now a song divine. A pain song of thee, my single note. My words are drunk with the immortal wine. So this is how the interpretation of heavenly science. His living cosmic spirit shall enring, annulling the decree of death and pain, erasing the formulas of the ignorance with the deep meaning of beauty and life's hid sense. How beautiful this is. You know, there is a very beautiful line in Sri Aurobindo's poem. And all grows beautiful because thou art. Beauty is something to be discovered. And if one can discover it in the most hideous and the most ugly, then one can say one has arrived at some perfection. That's how Sri Aurobindo, there is a whole essay of Sri Aurobindo. Beauty in the ugly, beauty in the hideous. And there also you can discover. Sri Aurobindo discovered, he says that I developed my eye for beauty in the jail. Before that, the Lord was all, soaring in those heights, nirvana, all peace and silence, stillness, and inpouring of the rivers. He says, when I was in the jail, then I discovered beauty. Now ask him how you discovered beauty there. After that, he could interpret art. After that, if somebody showed him, he would say, this is what it means. So beauty is everywhere. We don't see it. That's it. And those who have the eyes will find it. That story of the mother where people were, somebody asked her, Mother, these people are useless. Why are you keeping them near you? So mother said, bring me the list of useless people. And 25 useless people's list was brought. And she kept saying, this person has this goodness, this person has this. Then one person said, Mother, what's the point of bringing it to you? What about this person? See, have you seen how beautifully he fixes the stamps? How beautifully he fixes the stamps on the envelope? That's why she says, I always look upwards towards good and beauty and truth. If I were to look towards the ugly side, none of you will be able to stand. So it is something, a lesson for all of us. The being ready for immortality, his regard crossing infinity's mystic waves. So what are these mystic waves? See, so beautiful images Sri Aurobindo gives. Mystic waves. See Shir Sagar and from there ripples come down and eventually we have finite forms. It will cross that regard and look at the being who is sleeping at the heart of this creation. So how beautifully it describes creation itself. His regard crossing infinity's mystic waves. He's describing creation in his own andaz. The cry of a forgotten, the metered heartbeats. Oh, missed two more. His regard crossing infinity's mystic waves bring back to nature her early joy to live. The metered heartbeats of a lost delight. The cry of a forgotten ecstasy. The dance of the first world creating bliss. So creation started with this bliss, this joy. That's why the sign of true creativity is that it is carried on wings of joy. Even at a human level, if you get the aha feeling, doesn't matter who will appreciate or not appreciate, they're irrelevant. Human assessment has no meaning. But you experience that joy inside. And that joy can be communicated. That's what all art is meant to be. And when that is missing, even in science, you have that aha moment, eureka. Because there is something like the first bliss. That is the delight which went forth into this world. And it continued till man came. It continued even till man was Tarzan. It got lost as the mind started developing. But that was necessary, as the mother said, that fall. We have to recapture that delight passing through that narrow gorge of mind. Because still animals, it is unconscious. You see, animals live like that. Such a joy to see them. And then man loses it progressively. He passes through a narrow passage. He will recover it. But recover it now consciously. That is the whole game plan. The immanent shall be the witness God. And this dance of first world creating bliss also remind me of Sri Aurobindo's poem Krishna and Kali, two are the measures. One is the dance of Krishna and Radha. But world is not ready for Krishna and Radha. So there is Krishna and Kali. Either which way. So there is the Lasya where Shiva and Parvati is dancing. Later on, Parvati, Gauri turns into Kali and Shiva just gives his breast. He says, I can't keep pace with this. I'll just stabilize your dance. So this is the nature of creation today. But it won't be so forever. The immanent shall be the witness God. Watching on his many-petaled lotus throne, his actionless being and his silent might, ruling earth nature by eternity's law. Right now, mind is the witness. And mind is ignorant. So when we say, very often we use this as a quote, I have heard this in some people try to say, who is the witness? And so they take it that the witness, if you have discovered the self or the consciousness. It's not true. In human beings, the mind has this capacity to separate and become the witness. It is the manomaya purusha. It's not the self. If it was so easy, life would be beautiful. It is a subtle ego of the mind which envelops. The true witness is the immanent, the one who dwells within. But he is not just a witness, he is also a might. So he governs. Where is he seated? He is seated in his 1,000-petaled throne, Sahasrar. That's where he is seated and governs us. His actionless being and his silent might, ruling earth nature by eternity's law, a thinker waking the inconscious world, an immobile center of many infinitudes, in his 1,000-pillared temple by time. See what a beautiful image it is. First, he is the thinker. See, sometimes we read these words in the Vedas. The Kavis are also described as Kavir Manishi. This is the original thinker. What is the thinker doing? By his thought, he is moving the world. This is not the way that thought is the thought of God. That's how it is described at places. What does this thought do? It mediates between the will and creation. That is the thought, original thought. The rishis had understood it, so they use thought as a means of ascension. So sevenfold thought, ninefold thought, tenfold thought, Navagavas and Dasagavas. So, this thinker is in the original sense. And then he uses another very interesting image. An immobile center of many infinitudes. So this thinker is the center from which he is radiating thought forms, vibrations to reach out to the farthest end. And now comes an image with which, does it trigger some memory? In his 1,000-pillared temple by time, see Rameshwaram. Not that Sri Aurobindo is thinking of Rameshwaram putting it. See the symbol of Rameshwaram? It is a many-pillared temple. I don't know how many pillars. It's known for being a many-pillared temple. Where is it? By the side of the sea. See, these mystics who created these things in India, they knew what it means. Steps and stairs of ascension. You will see this in many temples of old. You won't normally find it in other places. You go and enter into the sanctuary of God, but you have these steps and stairs of ascent. 1,000-pillar temple by time sea. That is the symbol of the Rameshwaram temple. It's one of those Tirtha Bhumis. So, this is where the divine dwells and he radiates through his thought, governs this creation. Then shall the embodied being live as one, who is a thought, a will of the divine, a mask or robe of his divinity, an instrument and partner of his force, a point or line drawn in the infinite, a manifest of the imperishable. This is our destiny. This is the definition of the Superman. Very interesting. Like Krishna is giving all inner signs, but of a very different kind. See, I've heard so many times people speak of Savitri, that Sri Aurobindo used Savitri as a means of ascension, isn't it? It is there in one of his letters. He rewrote several times. It was a means of his ascension. So I used to wonder, yes, that's okay, we understand that. But there is something else which is not said there. And then it came to me that it is also a means for our ascension. That completes it. Sri Aurobindo uses it as a means of ascension, so he has gone step by step. Those steps are concealed within Savitri. When we read Savitri, it is a means for our ascension. That is a complementary part, which of course, I've heard so many times this repeated. But we must know that Savitri is a means for our ascension. But the Lord is a perfect gentleman. He is not going to tell us. He said, I have used it as a means of ascension, because he loves to play. You get it? It's like a puzzle. Why I am saying this is one of those puzzling letters. Nirodha asked him why you had to use Savitri, write and rewrite. So this is how he has started from there and taken it to that level, so that everything is concealed within it. So what will be this new being? The embodied being, live as one, who is a thought, a will of the divine. His thought and his will express the divine. That's what the new being will be. Along with that, a mask or robe of his divinity. So no more, this is me. No, this is not me. This is a mask or a robe. Whose mask or robe? Divine's mask or robe. Makes a world of difference. An instrument and partner of his force. What a beautiful thing it is to not just be an instrument, but a partner of his force. Playmate. A point or line drawn in the infinite. However far it goes, is always in connection with the infinite. Even the smallest finite, such a being is connected to the infinite. That's why it's a line or a point drawn in the infinite, a manifest of the imperishable. What the person is made to do becomes something of the imperishable. It is something which cannot perish with the passage of time. This is the Superman and much more. This supermind shall be his nature's fount. The eternal truth shall mold his thoughts and acts. The eternal truth shall be his light and guide. So this is the logic of the change, that right now mind is the principle that has governed earth and led us till here. Now the supermind, which was hidden, that's what repeatedly, it was always hidden. It has come out because of the action of the descent from above and the opening of the doors. Now it is given to the supermind to govern this earth. It makes a world of difference. So at one point, Mother was asked about a particular state I am not going to mention. And she said, well, the people of that state rejected Sri Aurobindo. But Mother, your grace is there. Yes, but I have given the charge to supermind. It is truth consciousness. It doesn't care. It will act by the law of truth. You can't say that, well, this is how, that is how. She says, yes, but I have given. So grace is still there. Those who are opening to grace is a different story. But if left to this, it is the supramental truth. And it will use anything and everything. When Mother was asked about Third World War, she said, my child, all these speculations are useless and meaningless. You must know that now that the supermind has descended, not exact word, but you'll see that reference. If you type out Third World War, you will see it in the agenda. She says that now that the supermind is here, everything that will happen, you must know it will come only to hasten the realization. She says it is no more left to human beings and their choices. Well, we can be participants, collaborators, thereby good for us. But the supermind will act. It has become active more and more in the earth atmosphere. So we are on an evolution fast forward. So what will it do? It will make us vehicles and vessels of eternal truth And our thoughts and actions will begin to reflect the will and light of the eternal. Right now, it is all our mind, its calculation, and all these things. All then shall change. A magic order come. It will come in ways that we cannot even imagine. See, we can see this shift. All our calculations apart. The corona and all that happened, what is happening today. One thing we know is that a great shift is taking place. I can tell you it is so strange, it is beyond human comprehension. Even recently, even the most, people who have nothing to do with God or supermind, the other day I was watching a very interesting program where they said that it's a strange thing that while recession is predicted almost all over the world, at different degrees, percentage. But for India, the prediction of recession is 0. Why it is happening? They are trying to understand logically, could be this, could be that. These are things which are so strange. And this is only a beginning. Much more is going to come through ways and means we cannot even imagine today. Overtopping this mechanical universe. It is going to overtop. Look at the power in these words. Magic order. Overtopping. It's not going to care about our assessments. A mightier race shall inhabit the mortal's world. So when we see now, in the beginning, when the boon is asked, Savitri says that if man is incapable, let a greater being then arise from man. So it is no more left to man. See, anywhere, nowhere it is said, man has to do this, man has to do that, then it will happen. Man can do it. Ganga beh rahi hai, haath dho lo. Dho lo kyo, doob jao, mukti milegi. The Ganges are flowing. You have the joy to put yourself in the Ganges, come out purified. Ganges does not depend upon us. Chhote Narayan ji used to say something very interesting. This was with reference to talks. So people will go and say, Arey, what a speech you gave. So he said, we are like mother's crows. We come and do cow cow. The world wakes up to light. It's not, the light has not come because of us. Don't mistake, that light is coming because the crow is doing cow cow. Crow is not even announcing the light. He is enjoying. He is in his bliss. That's it. He is simply doing out of joy. Ask a crow, are you announcing the light? Don't say such big things. I am enjoying. What about the light is coming? He says, light has come, therefore I am doing this. It's not that because I am doing, the light is coming. See, human beings. So this is the story that it will be a mightier race shall inhabit the mortal's world. On nature's luminous tops, on the spirit's ground, the Superman shall reign as king of life. So nature's tops is the highest point. You see, where will he rise? He will rise at the junction of the overmind and the supramental plane. How beautifully Sri Aurobindo puts it. Nature stops. Where is nature stop? In the overmind. That's also the spirit's ground when it descends. After that, there is all mixture which starts. So, Mother says, man's true domicile is above. She saw man standing on the borders of the overmind and the supermind. It says that's where he is meant to be. And therefore, there is one of our prayers. Man, true domicile is at the junction of the X, where he receives from the infinite and becomes a means, an instrument and channel for these forces of the divine to radiate into the finite. That is the work. Make this Superman shall reign as king of life. So man, how Superman will reign as king? It's not that suddenly there will be an act in the parliament and you will see now where the Superman will vote for him. It won't happen like that. His presence. See, when man came as a mental being, none of the animals recognized him as king of earth. But they felt something in him which is strange and different. And the animals would try to stay away. And they, if animals could speak, that story, Jungle Book, Agni Fool, he can light a fire. That we don't have. This is dangerous because they don't understand the fire. Everything about man was substandard compared to the animal. But there was something which they couldn't understand. And so they stayed away. That will be the relation, Mother said, initially of man and Superman. There will be something about Superman man will not understand. And it will lead to two reactions. One is hostility. Because what we do not understand, we try to finish it. And the other will be looking up to Superman as gods. That there is something very special, something different. There is a whole passage when Mother was asked, what will be the relation between man and Superman? Because Superman will have a human body. So this is the relation. Either of hostility to destroy what one cannot understand, or of a godlike almost a reverence. So this Superman will come, and the Superman shall reign as king of life, make earth almost the mate and peer of heaven. Why Sri Aurobindo use the word almost? There are so many ways it will be like that, but not exactly. The supramental creation is different from the supramental creation that exists in its own right. That's what the Mother wants us through this evolutionary process. And there is a great beauty in it. Even mental heavens and human beings, there is a difference. You see, when you read the story of the gods, sometimes you wonder, what a heartless fellow. Even Indra, मार डाला उसका कौन था हिरण्यकश्यप या किसका पिताजी को ऐसे. Just, no, what is that nice guy? Mahabali, who became one of those whom Vamana comes, no? Mahabali, right? Bali, King Bali. His father, he was just slain. That's it. No remorse, nothing. But human beings have compassion. They have gone through this stage. They understand the utility of tears. They have love. Mother said that, human beings have love which gods don't have. When she was shown that movie Sati Anusuya, so he says, why gods don't have? Because they don't have a psychic being. See, there are many such cryptic, very fascinating passages in Savitri. When Satyavan sees Savitri, he says, you look like a goddess. But I would be happy if a mortal heart beats below your lids. I'll be happy if our earth's vexed affections thou canst feel. I don't want a goddess. Because goddesses are known. Menaka came, she bore a child, and then she vanished. She didn't care. See, I don't want that kind of a relationship. I want a human being who can love, and love truly. Not a god who comes. Pururava's story, same thing. Urvashi comes, stays for 7 years, suddenly the boon is broken, and she goes away. A poor Pururavas has to, abandon his mission and go, which was very bad of him. I mean, he should have stayed. Then perhaps he would have avoided the Kaurava-Pandava war. So, that's another story. Okay. This Superman shall reign as king of life, make earth almost the mate and peer of heaven, and lead towards God and truth man's ignorant heart, and lift towards Godhead his mortality. In this journey, we have gained a lot which beings of that plane don't have. So that's why we have to grow in this way. And lift towards Godhead his mortality. So Godhead is always used in two senses. In capital G, it is, one way is the essence of the divine. The other is a power or aspect of the divine. So God and Godhead is like that. And lift towards Godhead his mortality. A power released from circumscribing bounds, its height pushed up beyond death's hungry reach. Life's top shall flame with the immortal's thoughts. Light shall invade the darkness of its base. So the transformation is not just in the mind and the heart, but deep below in the lower vital, the physical, the subconscious, all around it will take place. And at the same time, the soul will be seated above, it will be beyond the reach of death. So what does it mean? The body will never die. May or may not in the final result, but doesn't mean one will continue in the same body. But one is beyond the reach of death. If you ask such a person, one is conscious. Death doesn't exist. So when will death vanish? This is another thing people ask often. Acha, wo sab chhodiye. Marna kab band hoga? When will we stop dying? So my answer is when people will stop believing in death. Because death doesn't exist. If you believe in death, death is there. That's how it becomes fat. We feed him with our fear. Then in the process of evolving time, all shall be drawn into a single plan. A divine harmony shall be earth's law. Beauty and joy remold her way to lives. How beautiful this is. In all of Sri Aurobindo's writings, in Savitri, the word maximum used is sweetness. Another word you'll find very often is beauty. There is a passage where he speaks about, in the glory and fall of life, that greater life. He says, intellect will be beauty's worshipper, with love and joy as ministers. So intellect that we think something very great. Of course, this beauty is not about something outward, but an integral beauty. Beauty which is formless. And then it manifests through form. That is wonderful. But beauty, Mahalakshmi, divine harmony, Mahalakshmi, single plan, Mahalakshmi. So we see that the creation will become what it was meant to be. Even the body shall remember God. Beautiful. Because it will become aware of the deity. It will become aware in each cell the divine consciousness is there. It's just that we don't know it. So the body itself will begin to remember God. And to start with, that is a bit, it will happen or it is happening. But at least we can do when there is a misery in the body, we should remember God. That much we can do. Two stories that come to my mind. One mother had herself told. This was told to me by Dr. Vishwa, who was in General Hospital once, the head. And he was telling me, when I told mother, when I'll grow old, useless, what shall I do? No, you can do much more. What shall I do, mother? She said, you call the divine. When we are not well and when we are old, we are in that position to constantly call the divine. Illness. So this is one that we can call the divine. This is something turning roga into yoga. So bhoga leads to roga. Roga should lead to yoga. So turn it into yoga by remembering. Another story of his Jugalda. We know he was registrar of Center of Education. So when he had a corn, so he would walk on the pavement and say, ma, because it was hurting. Somebody said, Kiyolo Jugalda, what happened to you? He said, no, nothing much. I have just a corn. Why don't you get it operated? Simple surgery. He said, hey, don't tell me such thing. Every time I press, I say, ma. At least I am able to remember her all through. Not that we should do it painfully. Mother would much more that we do it happily. But the body shall remember God. And finally, last few lines, then we'll take a break. Nature shall draw back from mortality, and spirit's fires shall guide the earth's blind foes. Knowledge shall bring into the aspirant thought a high proximity to truth and God. So there will be an outpouring of knowledge, awakening of beauty and joy, awakening of power, the spirit's power, and nature itself will draw back from mortality, meaning thereby it will grow into greater and greater vastness. What is death? Death is something which destroys the limits. So limitless cannot die. The infinite cannot die. So that's how the process will take place, and knowledge shall bring into the aspirant thought a high proximity to truth and God. So all our thoughts will automatically begin to change and tweaked because of the divine working in brain and body and cells. So we'll take a 10 minutes break, and 6:15 we'll come back again for the second session.